Welcome to Walking the Haftarah. I'm Tyler Merwin, and this is Torah portion, VEZOT BRACHA. This week's Torah portion is Deuteronomy 33:1 through 34:12, and our Haftarah this week is Joshua 1, verses 1 through 18. VEZOT BRACHA means, and this, the blessing, as in the opening line of our Torah portion it reads, "This is the blessing with which Moses, the man of God, blessed the people of Israel before his death." Deuteronomy 33, verse 1. This is the final portion of our Torah cycle. As we mentioned a few weeks ago, this is also the shortest Torah portion when counting by the actual number of Hebrew words and letters. But Torah portion Vayelech is the shortest if counting by the number of verses in the portion. This last portion covers a final blessing over the tribes, a final blessing from Moses for all the people, and finally the death and burial of Moses. Our Haftarah this week continues where the Torah ends, into the first chapter of the book of Joshua. Let's begin by reviewing our portion. He said, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh came from Sinai and dawned from Seir upon us. He shone forth from Mount Paran. He came from the 10,000s of holy ones, with flaming fire at his right hand. Deuteronomy 33:2. Seir is the mountainous region of Edom, which of course is the territory of Esau, east of Mount Sinai. So Moses is actually describing the appearance of Adonai to be likened to the rising of the sun in the morning coming from the east. Mount Paran is a poetic way of referring to Mount Sinai or Mount Horeb. The 10,000s of holy ones are the myriads of angels that accompanied him on Mount Sinai at Shavuot. The flaming fire in his right hand is actually better translated as the fiery Torah or the fiery law in his right hand. And as we discussed before, his Torah was given by his right hand, which is his hand of grace and mercy. Yes, he loved his people. All his holy ones were in his hand. So they followed in your steps, receiving direction from you, when Moses commanded us a law as a possession for the assembly of Jacob. Deuteronomy 33, verses 3 and 4. This is describing the scene at Mount Sinai and the giving of the Torah. Remember that Torah is the Hebrew word that is translated in English as law. Law is a good translation of the word, but a more accurate translation would be teachings and instructions. And he was king in Yeshurun, when the heads of the people were gathered, the tribes of Israel together. Deuteronomy 33, verse 5. And that's translation from the NASB. Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh was, is, and always will be king over his people Israel. And Yeshua will be sent to physically do this on his behalf in the near future. As we covered last portion, Yeshurun is a term of endearment for Israel and means upright one or righteous one. Next, we get into the blessings of the tribes. Here are some key things to consider when studying different listings of the tribes found in different places of the Bible. First off, you'll notice that all the lists are different from each other, both in which tribes are actually listed and in which order they're listed. Remember that all the tribes are always there, even if they aren't all called out in that list. As an example, our list here in our portion actually omits the tribe of Simeon, but the tribe of Simeon is physically there and will continue to be a tribe of Israel. So the fact that they're not listed doesn't mean they disappeared or they were judged or stamped out. The sages see Simeon's omission as likely due to its population being very small and that its cities would actually not be their own, or they wouldn't be in their own portion of land, but they would be located in Judah's territory. And you can read about how that was divided up in Joshua 19, verses 1 through 9. Let Reuben live and not die, but let his men be few. Deuteronomy 33:6. Now the Art Scroll translates this last line of this verse as, and may his population be included in the count, instead of but let his men be few. The hope here is that Reuben's numbers, as they were dwindling, would not dwindle completely out, and his tribe wouldn't disappear into the rest of the tribes. And this he said of Judah, "Hear, O Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, the voice of Judah, and bring him in to his people. With your hands contend for him, and be a help against his adversaries." Deuteronomy 33, verse 7. The king will come from Judah, and will lead the nation in battle, like King David, and soon with King Yeshua. Next, we jump to Levi. This is the priestly tribe, and the blessings spelled out here align with the tribal function. "They shall teach Jacob your rules, and Israel your law. They shall put increase before you, and whole burnt offerings on your altar." Deuteronomy 33, verse 10. Teaching Torah and maintaining the tabernacle or temple, those functions were the key roles of the tribe of Levi. Of Benjamin he said, "The beloved of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh dwells in safety. The high God surrounds him all day long, and dwells between his shoulders." Deuteronomy 33, verse 12. The temple would be built in Benjamin's portion of Jerusalem. So the imagery here is that Adonai's constant presence was there. Joseph, the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh, are mentioned next. And of Joseph he said, "Blessed by Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh be his land, with the choicest gifts of heaven above, and of the deep that crouches beneath." Deuteronomy 33, verse 13. The land of Joseph was known to be exceptionally fertile, more than all the other tribes. And of course, remember that Ephraim actually means fruitful. "May these rest on the head of Joseph, on the pate of him who is prince among his brothers. A firstborn bull, he has majesty, and his horns are the horns of a wild ox. With them he shall gore the peoples, all of them, to the ends of the earth. They are the 10,000s of Ephraim, and they are the thousands of Manasseh." Deuteronomy 33, 16 and 17. This blessing alludes to his leadership, even though it was Judah who was actually going to be king. In the future, when the kingdoms split up, Ephraim will indeed become the ruler of the northern tribes. But also this alludes to Joshua, who is from Ephraim, that is about to become the leader of Israel. And also, Joshua, which is Yehoshua, is the long form of the word Yeshua, who is our Savior and our Messiah, who will be the ultimate leader and will bring every nation under his feet. And of Zebulun he said, "Rejoice, Zebulun, in your going out, and Issachar in your tents." Deuteronomy 33:18. Zebulun and Issachar always had a symbiotic relationship that blessed one another. And of Gad he said, "Blessed be he who enlarges Gad. Gad crouches like a lion. He tears off arm and scalp." Deuteronomy 33, verse 20. Gad chose their land first, that was Transjordan, and as such he's described as a lion as he fiercely defended that border territory. Moses the lawgiver also is buried in Gad's territory. And of Dan he said, "Dan is a lion's cub that leaps from Bashan." Deuteronomy 33:22. Dan's territory was on the coast, but would also be the first to battle seaborne invaders, so they are also called a lion. And of Naphtali he said, "O Naphtali, sated with favor, and full of blessing of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, possess the lake and the south." Deuteronomy 33, verse 23. Naphtali's territory bordered a portion of the Sea of Galilee. And of Asher he said, "Most blessed of sons be Asher. Let him be the favorite of his brothers. Let him dip his foot in oil." Deuteronomy 33, verse 24. Asher's land was fertile and supplied olive oil. and to dip his foot in oil is seen as having great abundance. Now, finished with the tribal blessings, Moses turns to bless the nation of Israel as a whole. There is none like God, O Yeshurun, who rides through the heavens to your help. Through the skies in his majesty, the eternal God is your dwelling place, and underneath are the everlasting arms. And he thrust out the enemy before you and said, Destroy. Deuteronomy 33, 26 and 27. Moses reminds them that their protector, the Holy One of Israel, is their portion and their dwelling place. So Israel lived in safety, Jacob lived alone, in a land of grain and wine, whose heavens drop down dew. Happy are you, O Israel! Who is like you, a people saved by Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, the shield of your help and the sword of your triumph? Your enemies shall come fawning to you, and you shall tread upon their backs. Deuteronomy 33, 28 and 29. The promised land will be delivered to Israel by the hand of Adonai, and he will give them victory and peace in their land. Adonai then calls Moses up to the top of Pisgah to show him the whole land of Israel, though he will not go over to physically dwell there. So Moses, the servant of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, and he buried him in the valley in the land of Moab opposite Beth Peor. But no one knows the place of his burial to this day. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eye was undimmed and his vigor unabated. Deuteronomy 34, verses 5 through 7. Israel then mourned for Moses for 30 days. And Joshua the son of Nun was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands on him. So the people of Israel obeyed him, and did as Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh commanded Moses. And there has not arisen a prophet since in Israel like Moses, whom Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh knew face to face. None like him for all the signs and the wonders that Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh sent him to do in the land of Egypt, to Pharaoh and to all his servants, and to all his land, and for all the mighty power and all the great deeds of terror that Moses did in the sight of all Israel. Deuteronomy 34, verses 9 through 12. Now that we have finished reading the final book of the Torah, we proclaim, Chazak, Chazak, V'nik Chazek, which means, be strong, and may we be strengthened. Now let's continue the story with our final Haftarah, Joshua 1, 1 through 18. Our story picks up after the 30-day mourning period for Moses has ended. After the death of Moses, the servant of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh said to Joshua the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, Joshua chapter 1, verse 1. Moses is referred to as the servant of Adonai. The Hebrew word here used is ebed, which can also be translated as bondservant or slave. The sages see how this perfectly fits Moses, as everything he did was on behalf of Adonai, his master. Moses never stepped out in his own might and never did anything to show his own glory. This is why Yeshua is the prophet like Moses, who also humbly represented the heart and the works of his father. Joshua, on the other hand, is referred to as the assistant of Moses. The Hebrew used here for assistant is sharat, which means to minister, to serve, or to wait on. What makes Joshua uniquely qualified to step into Moses' sandals is that he didn't just learn from him in a teacher-to-student relationship. He was by his side daily, tending to his needs, and communing with him at the times when he was outside of the public eye. The sages say that if Moses was likened to the sun, then Joshua would have been likened to the moon, as he was a reflection of him. Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, you and all this people, into the land that I am giving to them, to the people of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given to you, just as I had promised to Moses. From the wilderness and this Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, to the great sea toward the going down of the sun shall be your territory. Verses 2 through 4. Adonai now, communicating directly with Joshua in his new leadership role, reiterates the command to lead the people into the promised land. He tells them that every place his foot treads will be given to them, reassuring him that even though Moses is no longer there, Adonai's promises still remain. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Just as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you or forsake you. Verse 5. Adonai tells Joshua that he has secured his leadership role and he wouldn't have to fear about a rebellion. And Adonai reassures Joshua that he would not leave him or forsake him, just as the writer of Hebrews also reiterates to us. Be strong and courageous, for you shall cause this people to inherit the land that I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous, being careful to do according to all the law that Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may have good success wherever you go. Verses 6 and 7. Adonai encourages Joshua to take courage and step into his leadership role because it is the Holy One who goes with him. The other key ingredient is to carefully follow Adonai's words and not to stray from it. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Verse 8. Here is the key to Joshua's success, and our success as well as Yod-Heh-Vav-Eh's people. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened, and do not be dismayed. For Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, your God, is with you wherever you go. Verse 9. Adonai again encourages Joshua, as the one he would have normally leaned on, Moses, is no longer there for him. And Joshua commanded the officers of the people, pass through the midst of the camp, and command the people, prepare your provisions, for within 3 days you are to pass over this Jordan to go in to take possession of the land that Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh your God is giving you to possess. Verses 10 and 11. Joshua rallies the commanders to prepare the people to move out. And to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, Joshua said, remember the word that Moses, the servant of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, commanded you, saying, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh your God is providing you a place of rest, and will give you this land. Your wives, your little ones, and your livestock shall remain in the land that Moses gave you beyond the Jordan. But all the men of valor among you shall pass over armed before your brothers, and shall help them, until Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh gives rest to your brothers, as he has to you. And they also take possession of the land that Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh your God is giving them. Then you shall return to the land of your possession, and shall possess it, the land that Moses the servant of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh gave you beyond the Jordan toward the sunrise. Verses 12 through 15. Joshua addresses the Transjordan tribes to keep their oath that they vowed, to cross the Jordan and fight alongside their brothers until the land had been conquered. And they answered Joshua, all that you have commanded us we will do, and wherever you send us we will go. Just as we obeyed Moses in all things, so we will obey you. Only may Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh your God be with you, as he was with Moses. Whoever rebels against your commandment and disobeys your words, whatever you command him, shall be put to death. Only be strong and courageous. Verses 16 through 18. Not only do the leaders of the Transjordan tribes reaffirm their commitment to fight, they also affirm their faith in Joshua's leadership. They even vow to punish anyone rebelling against him with death, the kind of deference that is given to a king. Their only request is that Adonai would be with Joshua, like Adonai was with Moses. And they also encourage Joshua to be strong and courageous. The repeated phrase in this Haftarah is be strong and courageous. Adonai would not need to repeat this if it weren't real things that Joshua would soon face that were actually scary, things that would make him feel weak. We too are living in times that are getting scary, and the events going on around the world can make us feel uneasy and weak. It seems that we have no power within ourselves to change things. We can't seem to get things back to normal. It seems that the leaders we have always trusted to lead us and keep things normal have actually left reality and are leading us into chaos rather than out of it. But I say to you today, do not be frightened and do not be dismayed. For Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, your God, is with you wherever you go. We need to shine the light of Yeshua to all those around us and be strong and courageous. I pray blessings on you and your families. Thank you again for studying the Torah with me. I pray this teaching has been edifying. Let's lift up the name of the Holy One. With love and Echad. Shalom.